A boring savings account just beat the stock market. Not by a little, by a mile, guaranteed, tax-free, zero risk. Everyone tells you cash is lazy, 4% while stocks earn 10. But on your first $5,000, 4 quietly out-earns 10, and the reason never shows up on a statement. Get that one number wrong, and an ordinary bad week becomes years of debt. It starts in a mechanic's parking lot with a $900 text. 2 years ago, a friend of mine got a text from his mechanic. The transmission was going, $900 to fix it, or the car doesn't move on Monday, and Monday is how he gets to work. He had the $900. It was sitting in a savings account earning 4%, a number so small he used to feel embarrassed by it. His brother kept telling him that money was lazy, that he should have it in the stock market earning 10, except the brother had it backwards. That lazy 4% account just earned him a better return than the stock market would have. And once you see why, you will never look at your first $5,000 the same way again. Let me show you the math because the math is the whole video. And one thing up front, so nobody takes the wrong lesson. This is about your first $5,000, not your life savings. Above that line, the math flips and you invest. The first $5,000 just plays by different rules. Here's why. Picture the other guy, the brother. Call him the version of you that listened to the optimizers. Same $900 repair. But his money was in stocks because stocks earn 10 and savings earns 4. And 10 is bigger than 4. Obvious, right? So when the mechanic texts, he's got no cash sitting around. He's got two options. Sell some stock or put it on a credit card. Hold that fork in the road, we're coming back to it, and which path he takes decides everything. First, I want to kill the idea running this whole genre of bad advice, that the return on your money is the number printed on the account. 4% here, 10% there, pick the big one. That number is real. But for your first chunk of savings, it's a decoy. It's pointing at the wrong thing entirely, because the real return on an emergency fund isn't what it earns, it's what it prevents. Stay with me. The average credit card in America right now charges about 21% a year. 21. That's not a typo, and it's not the worst card. It's the average one, the one in most people's wallets. So when our optimized friend puts that $900 on plastic and carries it, he's not paying $900. He's renting $900 at 21%. Carry it a year, and you've handed the bank around $190 for nothing, for a transmission you already own. Now flip it. The guy with the boring savings account pays cash, no card. No 21%. And here's the move I need you to actually feel, not just hear. In the moment that cash stops you from borrowing, avoiding 21% does exactly what earning 21% would. $1 of interest you don't hand over leaves you in the same place as $1 you went out and earned. Same balance, less work. So in that one moment, the real effective return on that cash isn't 4%. It's 21. Guaranteed. Tax-free. Risk-free. Sit with how rare that is. The stock market's 10%? That's an average over decades, and some of those years it's down 20. On your first emergency dollar, there's no investment on the planet that hands you a guaranteed tax-free 21%. It doesn't exist. Except this one. The single most boring product in personal finance, the savings account everybody apologizes for, is quietly one of the highest return places your first dollars can go. So that's the first answer. 4 beats 10. Because 4 was never the real number. 21 was. But hold on, because that 21% is the part you can see, and it's actually the small half of the story. Let me show you the part that doesn't print on any statement. And the only way to show it is to put you in the car. It's a Tuesday morning. You're the version with no buffer, and you're sitting in the mechanic's lot with the engine off, phone in your hand, that text still open. You haven't gone in yet. You're doing the math in your head. Not the interest math, the real math. $900 goes on the card. Rents in 8 days. The card already had a little something on it from the holidays you keep meaning to clear. You're not crying. You're not panicking. It's quieter than that. It's the calculator that's been running in the back of your head for so long, you've stopped noticing it's on. And you sit there 1 extra minute before you open the door, because the second you walk in, the number is real. That's the cost. Not the 190 in interest. That minute in the parked car, and the 1,000 minutes like it that you've stopped counting. Now the guy with the buffer gets the same text, in the same lot on the same Tuesday. He walks straight in. He's annoyed. Nobody enjoys $900, but he's annoyed the way you're annoyed by rain. There's no calculator running. He never has the minute in the car. He pays, he drives to work, and by lunch, he's forgotten it happened. Same $900, same transmission. The only difference between those two men is which one had cash sitting in a boring account before Tuesday morning. That's what money is actually for, the option to be annoyed by a problem instead of afraid of it. And that option is the part the spreadsheet never prices. Now, the sharpest person watching is already pushing back, but I pay my card off every month. I never carry a balance, so 21% doesn't apply to me. Right, and that's true on every month you've had so far. So picture the one that breaks the streak. It's a Thursday. Your hours got cut this period, so the paycheck came in light. And the same week the dentist says the crown's cracked, that's $800, and the card needs brakes before the inspection. Statement closes Monday. You go to clear the card the way you always do, and for the first time there isn't enough in checking to clear all of it. You're a person who pays in full, standing there about to carry a balance. Not because you got careless, but because 3 normal things landed in 1 week and the timing was cruel. That's the month the 21% was always waiting for. It never cared about your good months. It was sitting there for that exact Thursday. And notice what actually failed on that Thursday. It wasn't your income. Your income was almost fine. It wasn't your discipline. You were trying to do the right thing. What failed was that you had no room, no space for one bad thing to land before the next one did. 3 bills showed up close together and there was nothing between them to keep them from stacking. That word, room, is the whole game, and it has a name. I call it the slack line. Here's the idea. Every financial life is one of 2 things, fragile or resilient. And the difference is not how much you earn. I've watched people making 45 grand be resilient and people making 120 grand be fragile as glass. The difference is slack, how much room sits between a surprise and a disaster. The slack line is the cash that is that room. It's the dollars parked between an emergency and a debt, so the emergency has to get past them before it can ever touch the debt. That's why I don't call it a piggy bank or a rainy day fund. It's a line. It's the thing the next bad Thursday has to cross before it's allowed to hurt you. And most people are living with no line drawn at all. Cross below the line and every surprise becomes debt. The car, the tooth, the busted water heater, all of it with nowhere to go but the card. You're not a bad person. And you didn't blow it on lattes. You just had no slack. So a $900 problem became a $900 balance, compounding at 21% while you slept. Let me make that real because spiral is just a word until you watch the numbers move. 900 on the card. You're responsible, so you pay $40 a month. Sounds fine, except 21% on 900 is about $16 of interest in the first month alone. So of your $40 payment, 16 evaporates before it touches what you owe. You paid 40, you knocked down 24. At that pace, you're chained to that transmission for almost 2.5 years, and you'll hand the bank about $250 extra for the privilege. Then, month 4, still paying it off, the dishwasher dies. 300 more, onto the same card, because what else are you going to do? And that's the spiral. It was never one big disaster. It's 2 ordinary survivable bills that overlapped, and you had no slack to let one finish before the next one landed. Now run that exact same bad luck with 5,000 sitting above the line. Transmission, then the dishwasher a few weeks later. Same income, same surprises, and watch what doesn't happen. No card, no $16 a month interest meter, no 30-month leash on a car you already own. Each bill crosses the line, and the line holds. Over the next couple of months, the automatic transfer quietly refills it while you barely notice. Same $1,200 of bills, the spiral just doesn't start. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. The difference between those 2 lives wasn't income, and it wasn't discipline in the moment. It was whether $5,000 was already sitting above the line before the bad luck showed up. The whole thing got decided that far upstream, months before the mechanic ever texted. That's what the 5,000 buys, not interest, the line itself. And the reason it's roughly $5 grand and not 1 is simple. 1,000 draws the line too low. It covers the small stuff, but not the real hit. Think about what the actual emergencies cost. A used transmission or a major engine repair runs right around what my friend paid, and often more. A health insurance deductible, what you owe before coverage even kicks in, commonly runs a couple thousand on its own. And the big one, losing your job, isn't one bill, it's a gap. A few weeks to a couple of months, with rent and groceries still coming due. $1,000 doesn't touch any of those. It buys you about one bad week, and then you're back across the line and onto the card. 5,000 is sized to absorb the kind of emergency that actually creates debt, the one that takes weeks to recover from, not hours. That's where fragile becomes resilient, and it's why the number isn't arbitrary. And 5,000 is the first line, not the final number. It's the one that ends the debt cycle. I call it your first brick, the first piece you lay before anything else stacks on top. How big your full cushion eventually gets depends on your own life, how steady your income is, how exposed your job is. But everyone starts at the same first line. And before you think I'm just here to yell a rule at you, let me give the other side its due, because they've earned it. The optimizers aren't stupid. Over 30 years, cash really does lose to stocks. That's true. If you're sitting on $50,000 in savings to be safe, you're leaving real money on the table, and someone should tell you. So this is not hoard cash forever. The argument is about your first 5,000, the line and nothing above it. Past that, the math flips, and you should absolutely be investing. The whole skill is knowing which dollar is which. Now let's close that fork in the road I left hanging, because there was a second trap on the optimizer's path, and it's worse than the credit card. Remember his other option? Sell some stock to cover the repair. Sounds clean? No debt, right? But watch when he has to sell. Emergencies don't check the market first. Layoffs cluster in recessions, and recessions are exactly when stocks are down. So the month he's forced to sell is, disproportionately, the month his stocks are worth the least. He's not just cashing out. He's locking in a loss, selling at the bottom because the transmission won't wait for the market to recover. And here's the layer underneath the layer. The slack line doesn't only block the 21% borrow. It's the thing standing between a market crash and your retirement account. The cash on the side is what lets your stocks stay invested through the storm instead of getting sold into it. And staying invested through the storm is how you actually capture that 10%. So the line pulls a double shift. On one side, it blocks the borrow at 21. On the other, it stops the panic sell at the bottom. It's not the lazy money. It's the money that lets every other dollar do its job. And here's the quiet beauty of it. You don't need willpower for any of this, because nobody makes a calm, optimal decision sitting in a mechanic's parking lot at 8 in the morning. Most money advice gets this exactly backwards. It tells you to try harder, budget tighter, want it more. That works for about 3 weeks until life gets loud and the willpower runs out, because willpower always runs out. So you don't lean on it. You set up one automatic transfer the morning your paycheck lands, before you're even awake enough to talk yourself out of it. And then a machine draws the line for you, a little higher every month. You're not disciplined every day. You're disciplined once, for about 10 minutes, today. The best plan isn't the most aggressive one. It's the one that still works on your worst week. But I can't just conjure $5,000. Right, nobody can. You don't save it, you build it. And let me be straight about the timeline, because this is where people quietly lie to you. $400 a month gets you to $5,000 in about a year. $200 a month, totally fine to start, takes closer to 2. Neither is fast, and I'd rather tell you the honest number than sell you a 30-day fantasy you'll quit by February. That slowness is the point. It's a small, automatic decision you make once and then stop making. Even $200 a month is a little over $6 a day. Less than you've talked yourself into spending on things you can't even remember by Friday. The line isn't a windfall you wait for. It's a transfer you schedule, then forget, then look up one day and it's drawn. So here's exactly what you do this week while it's fresh. 1. Name the number, $5,000, a finish line. Finish lines are easier to chase than a vague feeling that you should save more. 2. Open a separate high-yield savings account, separate so you don't see the money and spend it. And name it, not savings. Call it your freedom fund, your job insurance, something that tells you what it's for, so the day you're tempted to raid it, the name argues back. The good ones pay around 4% right now, which is fine. Remember, the 4% was never the point. 3. Automate one transfer for the day after payday, before the money's awake enough to get spent. 200, 400, whatever's real for you. Then leave it alone. And 4, the rule that does the quiet heavy lifting. Any windfall, a tax refund, a bonus, route half of it straight into the fund before it ever lands in checking. You don't miss money you never saw. And when you hit 5,000, the first brick laid, the line drawn, everything else starts stacking on top. That's when you graduate to the part where we actually talk about investing, where the 10% finally becomes the right number to chase. That's the natural next video, so if you want it, subscribe and it'll find you when you're ready. Before you go, one question, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. What was your $900 transmission? The surprise that hit when you had no line drawn, and what did it cost you on the way out? Because naming it is how you make sure the next one is just a bad Tuesday instead of the start of a spiral. Drop it below. I read them. And here's what that line actually buys, and it isn't safety. Bad things still happen. What it buys is the right to wait. For the right job instead of the first one that'll take you. For the right offer. For the right moment to make your move. Instead of being shoved into a corner because rent's due Friday and the account's empty. That's money doing its real job, not making you rich, making you free to choose. You don't need to get rich first to stop being fragile. You just need to draw the first line at 5,000, and now you know exactly why it's worth more than it earns. I'm Cole. This is the Money Professor.